Hey guys, and welcome back to the English shooting live stream. Unbeknownst to you guys, this very almost didn't happen, as I only got back from a little break away with my fiance literally a few hours ago, and this past week or so has been a pretty hard one. But thanks thanks for joining. I couldn't let you guys down, especially with this spark of discussion on 3D printed guns again. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you will probably know that it's a topic that I follow quite avidly, not just because of the interest of guns, but also my background and interest in 3D printing. So we are going to be talking about that. The main discussion has been sparked by a new video that has come out from Vice. I actually shared this on the English Shooting Facebook page, and the video itself is actually very informative of what current state are we in when it comes to 3D printing, because 3D printing guns, because it is such a rapidly evolving technology, not just the 3D printing side of things, but also the gun side of things, what people are able to now do with 3D printers, what guns and gun parts they're able to make with it, and what is in essence freely available online. But yes, as I'm sure you will all be aware, if you are a regular to this stream, it is an interactive stream. There is a chat box. I do try my best to answer any particular questions if there are any particular topics, and I would really appreciate topics suggested tonight, because I literally started getting ready for the stream about half an hour ago. So 3D prints, I can go on for quite a long time on that, but I would appreciate some help on topics, because I have a few, but it might be scraping the barrel slightly. I mean, I've got a Basque topic. Like, it can't be an English shooting live stream without talking about Basque. There's a bit more update with the lead ban, or the voluntary transition to lead, or whatever they want to call it. So we will be getting on to that, talking about a few trips with both Kentucky Firearms Club and American Shooting trips. You know that I like to go on as many of those as possible. There are a few more that have been announced, and we will of course be talking about the new Magload unit, which is what has taken, I think, a considerable amount of my time over the past week, and why I'm even though I've just been away for a few days, still absolutely shattered. So still lots to cover, but yeah, any questions or topics you guys want to chat about, or any questions you want to ask, anything at all really, but try to keep it towards guns, as that's what this guns and shooting, that's what this channel, obviously the name suggests, we're all about. But yeah, don't forget as well to like. Last week we were able to save the pump action shotguns by getting over 100 likes, so let's just reinforce that. I don't know what is going to happen if we hit 100 likes. Maybe I don't know, maybe next week we will do the live stream in the new Magload HQ. So you guys are talking about it quite a bit. I need to get on to the main topic straight away, because there's so many people that watch the streams afterwards, and they go, it takes you like 20 minutes to get on to the main subject. So I'm like, well, it's a live stream, all right, cut me a slack. So we will get on to the new Magload HQ. It is very exciting, very new and shiny, less so after having various machines moved in, but we will get there again. So what sparked this whole thing about 3D printed guns again? Well, first of all, as the thumbnail suggests, yes, there are still people that don't think that 3D printed guns are viable, which is just laughable at this point. With just, you go onto YouTube and you type 3D printed gun, you will easily have that disproved. And the biggest point yet again that everyone comes down to is ammunition. Oh, you can't 3D print powder, and we'll get onto that in a sec. But the main sort of spark of this is this Vice News video, which I will bring up for you guys. So it is over on the English Shooting Facebook page if you want to go and watch it. It's about half an hour long. I haven't had a chance to watch it all the way through yet, just general snippets, but it really does go back to its roots and sort of show you where people were, where they are now, where the technology is now, and they talk to some fairly influential people about the state of 3D printing guns and the whole movement, and there is a whole movement now, certainly over in the US, about it. But still, whenever people talk about 3D printed guns, it's like, no, it can't be done. It's not possible. It is absolutely possible, and so many people say, well, you can't 3D print a firing pin, you can't 3D print springs, all of which again is completely untrue. 3D printing now, well, even for the last 10-15 years, has been so advanced. We can print in titanium, stainless steel, Inconel, all of these different exotic metals, of course, with all the different plastics as well. And going down to something as benign as, well, you can't 3D print a firing pin, well, yes, if you have a metal 3D printer, you absolutely can. But if you're talking just about, say, FDM, so FDM printers are the squirty hot plastic. You have a hot end, which plastic, sort of plastic strip or reel is forced through, and it squirts out a very fine layer, and it will build it up layer by layer. That you can go and print, go and buy a pretty decent FDM printer now for like 250-300 quid, delivered to your door, ready to go. So that is the most accessible form of 3D printing. You can now buy sort of consumer grade SLS printing. SLS is a much more advanced form of 3D printing, is much less noticeable as 3D printing, and SLS is selective laser sintering, where you have a hot chamber of powder. It heats up the entire chamber of powder and then uses a laser to like knock over the fusing point or the melting point of that plastic nylon powder into a solid object. And the SLS is much stronger than FDM. It can be, depend how it's designed, much stronger than injection molding. And people will go, well, why are you comparing it to injection molding? What does injection molding have to do with guns? Glocks, 1522s, both are injection molded, so that you have a 3D printing technology that can be as strong, if not stronger. The consumer grade machines are still in the region of £5,000 to £10,000, so you're talking a serious whack of money, and they are incredibly hard to use. Trust me, from mine and Connor's own experience with one. Really, to get something that works on a mass production, you're still talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, but the technology is available much cheaper. But even if you take FDM printed parts, you can still 3D print a barrel, because, not forgetting, the sort of kings of the 3D printed world are defense distributed, and I'm not gonna, there's one particular website that I really don't want to share. Maybe I'll just go play it safe, play it safe and go onto their YouTube. I always get a bit nervous about sharing certain links, and like, it's all easily accessible, it's all easily found online, but I don't want to necessarily promote it and publicize it too much on this channel. So this video was back in 2013. In terms of 3D printing and technology, you're talking 8 years, right? 8 years, well, over 8 years now since this video was filmed. In the technology sector, 8 years is like a millennia, and this is what they were doing back in 2013. They also quite famously did the Liberator, and I'll find that quickly for you guys. Well, there it is. There's a picture very quickly. I missed it. Let's go to the home. I think it's like one of their most watched videos. Here we go, the Liberator. So I believe the only thing that wasn't 3D printed on this, and they do actually, in one of the videos, they show all the component parts. They 3D print a barrel. Now I think this is only on, it only uses, well, there we go. I'm trying to find it. It only uses, I think it's a 22 short round, so not a particularly punchy round, but that is a 3D printed barrel. So for those of you saying that, well, you can't 3D print a barrel, there we can. There you go. Yes, you can. Of course, what is a barrel? Well, it is just a bit of metal pipe at the end of the day. anything that can be bought quite easily. And there you go. You can see all of the components there. Like you can 3D print a grip, but I think that is actually a standard like AR grip. And I believe the only thing in that wasn't 3D printed was the firing pin, which they used a nail for. So yes, you might not be able to FDM print a firing pin, but you can go and get a thumbtack, you can go and get a nail, all of which easily available. Another thing that people always come back to with 3D printing is, well, we haven't needed 3D printing forever to be able to make, ghost guns. Look at PA Luti. Not the best example, because things didn't really go particularly well for him in the end. And what I always say is that he was very mechanically minded. He had obviously a very natural talent for engineering. And whilst the schematics for the PA Luti gun are sort of freely available online, you can buy them off Amazon, I believe, and all of the tools and components that are used to be able to make that gun are available. You can walk into Wix or B&Q and pretty much buy everything you need. The main difference is you do need some level of skill. Yes, it is sort of like an IKEA instruction set, but you're still working with metal. I believe there's some welding involved, and that all takes time, and it makes noise, it makes smells. It's not something that you could do in, say, not do that undetectably in like a London flat. Or a block of flats. You're talking, a long process with a fair amount of noise. And if you're halfway in the middle, if it takes you a couple of days to make one and you're halfway through it, all of that stuff is available, and it's going to be most likely left out. The thing about 3D printers, and what I've been saying from day one, why they are going to be so powerful and such a concern in terms of the criminal aspect, is because it's plug in and play. And when we first started talking about this, it was way off of that. Even operating a fairly high end expensive FDM machine, there was a lot of precursor knowledge that you needed to be able to get it working consistently. Today's FDM printers, they're auto leveling, they're auto detecting, and they take all of the work and knowledge required out of it. Again, you just buy one, it arrives at your door, you open it, plug in, and literally play. The files are freely available online, so you just need to be able to download them, stick them in the printer, and press print. You then have a gun. You can stash that away in an attic. You don't need to be there the whole time. If it takes 2 days to print, that can be out in a shed, that can be in a basement, that can be in a wardrobe. It's not you stood there doing something. So again, the chances of being detected, the chances of being caught in the act, as it were, are going to be far, far less. The other thing, when you get into the forensics of stuff, are tools make marks, right? There have been various cases where people have been prosecuted because they have found particular tools in a shed, in a garage, that have matched various tooling marks on a handmade gun. Even people that convert blank firers, for instance, there are various marks that the conventional tools will leave that can be matched up and can then therefore in some way reduce the level of ghost gun. 3D printers don't do that. There are no distinguishable marks that are left by a 3D printer. A 3D printed gun is completely untraceable to the printer it was printed on. Okay, you can narrow it down to different nozzle sizes, maybe bed texture, but it's very generic. If you buy an off-the-shelf 3D printer, you'll be one of tens of thousands of people across the world. So being able to narrow it down specifically to you is going to be nigh on impossible. Of course, the next thing that people come on to is ammunition. You can't 3D print ammunition. Well, we've already seen a variety of polymer rounds, so polymer cases. Thank you, Supertaz, much appreciated. And yes, that isn't what makes a whole round, but are you talking about being able to shoot a projectile accurately at 1,000 yards, or are you talking about something that's going to be lethal at 5 foot? Because you could 3D print a bullet, you could 3D print the case. Yes, you can't get yes, you need a primer and you need powder, but as we've talked before, there are various methods with blank firers or blank rounds to be able to get those. Primers are not restricted, you can buy them. I've actually even got something that requires unlicensed primers. So this is like a flashbang grenade, not a real one, it's an airsoft one. Of course, we make various movies and need sound effects, so that's why I got it, not just because it was cool and it shouted out to me, buy me, buy me, buy me. So you can go in and buy shotgun primers, you can go and buy 9mm primers or 9mm blanks for one of these, so you can get those components off of the shelf. They're not licensable, and there are various ways to be able to get your hands on powder. Most gun shops aren't gonna, and this is specifically in the UK, most gun shops are still going to ask for a firearm certificate or shotgun certificate in order to buy powder. But if you have access to blanks, if you can obtain powder in various other ways that you're not going to need a license for. So I think the you can't 3D print ammunition argument is completely null and void. You could either quite easily get hold of potential viable ammunition. Let's not forget shotgun cartridges. It may require a shotgun certificate to be able to buy, but not store. If you go on a clay ground or a clay experience and you keep a couple of cartridges in your pocket, that's completely legal. Once they have been given to you by a license holder or an instructor, it's legal for you to keep. You don't need a certificate. So again, various ways to get around that ammunition. But what again this Vice video really highlights is how far we have come. Really, it's here. It's not if buts and maybes anymore. There are huge communities online. They are printing Glock frames. I mean, there's I'll try and find out. I should, again, always well prepared. I always think of the things that I was meant to get ready on stream, but I'm just gonna I'm just gonna say that it was because I didn't have that much time. So I think is it Our Firearms? There's a couple of Reddit groups on Reddit, funnily enough, that are absolutely bananas on their 3D printed guns. I'm just trying to find. I'm just want to demonstrate. Oh, come on! I'm trying to do this live never works. 3D gun firearms 3D printed. No, I don't want to search for. I really do hate Reddit sometimes. 3D printed guns. Let's find. So I'll just bring literally you go onto Reddit and you type in 3D printed guns. This is what you get. There's the Liberator. So there's, you can see that probably is some sort of 9mm Uzi, AKs, ARs. There's so many different designs now. People have it's just absolutely exploded, and this is what happens when an internet community gets behind it. This is, let's not forget how 3D printers became available to the masses. It was online communities. It was the hackers, not in the conventional sense of hackers, but it was tinkerers. It was people messing about and taking £100,000 machine technology and condensing it into something you could build for a few £100. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the masses, mostly from the US, descend on the whole 3D printed gun subject, and just people coming out left, right, and center with all these different designs. They're perfecting them. They're becoming more reliable, easier to print, quicker to print. And again, I really cannot highlight how whilst I haven't seen it all the way through, what I have seen this video, again, head over to the English Shooting Facebook page to go and check it out. But it is just really interesting, and a lot of what you see in that video, or certainly what I've seen so far, is what I've been saying for years that we were going to see happen. And once again, our laws are not going to keep up. Yes, it's illegal to have an unregistered gun. And murder is illegal, and robbery is illegal, and all that. But it does just completely. It's that famous image of that gate in the middle of a field, and it's like gun control, and then there's the tracks around the outside. That is what 3D printing has done. It's not what it's going to do, it's what it has absolutely done. And we've been talking in terms of our laws, in terms of ammunition and the availability of guns from a UK perspective. Expand that to the US, where you can walk into. Does Walmart still sell ammunition? I have myself bought ammunition in Walmart, but you can just walk into a gun shop in the States and buy ammunition. You don't need to be a citizen. I showed them a UK driving license as my ID, and it was absolutely fine. So in countries like America, where ammunition is freely available, and where, say, components like the lower of an AR is the only licensable firearm, and you can mail order barrels and uppers and all the other triggers, bolts, firing pins, so on and so forth. If the licensable part is just the lower, then you just need to print the lower. Look at Glocks again. The frame is what is licensable out there. You can buy conversion kits in the post. So it's a much more revolutionary in the US because of the gun laws out there. In the UK, yes, it is slightly more prohibitive because you can't just go and buy a barrel. You just can't go and buy a bolt. But people are finding very clever and innovative ways to get around that. And let's not forget that in September 2019, I'll bring up the article now, we had our first conviction for a 3D printed gun. And you can see that, okay, that looks like a little Derringer, or what was it? Is it the pepper pot gun? And the Patrick, right? It basically removes all of the issues from not being able to buy barrels, not being able to buy bolts. Just buy build or print a revolver. And the way it gets round the barrels is that you press in metal sleeves. You buy a bit of pipe from your local hardware store and you press it in. There you go. You've got a gun. But this student was convicted. It was the first conviction in the UK involving a 3D printed gun, and this was 2 years ago. There's been numerous since, and I believe these were both tested by NABUS, and there it says it pleaded guilty to making a gun capable of firing live ammunition. That was tested by NABUS, and love them or hate them, they are pretty good at judging on whether a gun is going to be lethal or not. And more recently, so this was it says updated the 18th of April. I think it was that sort of soon, or that, not that long ago. Was that operation took place? So this was September last year, so this is now a year old. The article's obviously been updated since, but they found a factory. They found a whole factory in Spain where they were, again, my internet's doing me wonders, but you can see all the different types. You've got different Glock frames, Glock magazines they're printing, lowers, they're even printing bloody stocks as well, more Glock frames that they've printed and all different components. And for some reason this isn't loading, but they end up fine. I'll see if there's any pictures. No. So this is getting more prevalent, this is getting bigger. And again, that the Vice video just really highlights that, really puts into context where we are with 3D printed guns. So for those of you that says it can't be done, those of you that argue about things like barrels and firing pins, and those of you that still argue about ammunition, all of which is not an argument anymore. It's not a counter to the fact that 3D printing guns is going on right now. It's happening, And you know, I'm genuinely worried. You know, I always say how I support in the UK our licensing system, when administered properly, works quite well, and this just undoes it all. You know, literally anyone can buy a 3D printer and start printing off their own guns. And you know, what's the next step? Do we start licensing 3D printers? That's not going to work. You know, it will just send it underground. You would kill industry. We need these. There's far more good that comes from 3D printers being available than the bad that potentially can. But I don't know, we're just seeing this gear up, you know, and it's like Moore's law. You know, Moore's law is, if you don't know, it's you know, technology will get twice as powerful at half the cost every 2 years. So the best one for this was like memory sticks. They always, you know, the highest capacity available doubled every 2 years, and they got half the price, and they went a lot quicker. 3D printing's the same, the technology is the same. I can see the amount of convictions doing the same, you know, doubling every 2 years, you know, and then it becomes an exponential thing, and you've got thousands of people being convicted for 3D printed guns. You know, it makes the whole focus of these obsolete caliber guns, it makes the whole focus of the blank firers just completely meaningless, because yes, you're going to bring in new laws for blank firers, you're going to ban certain or restrict certain obsolete caliber firearms. The criminals are just going to move to 3D printers. That is exactly what we're gonna see, what I've been predicting for a number of years. And as I always say, it's not like I have a solution for this. I genuinely think it's going to have to be one of these things that we just ride out and see what happens. But yeah, we haven't, as far as I'm aware, in the UK, we haven't seen the first 3D printed gun murder, and I hope we never will. Unfortunately, from what we're seeing in the way that criminal activity with 3D printers is gearing up, it's a question of it's sooner. You know, it's a question of when, not if. And you know, what do you do? You know, like, it's sort of asinine in a way when we're talking about the potential restrictions that are going to come from the Plymouth shooting, right? And we all know it was well, from what we know so far, it very much points to a massive mistake by the police, and people will still try to find, whilst the guidance is there, whilst the framework is there to be able to prevent something like Plymouth, there is of course always people like the Gun Control Network and other shooting victims that come out and say we need new laws. No, the current laws just need to be followed. They will suffice. But what do you do for 3D printing, right? You know, it's already illegal to 3D print a gun. It's already illegal to have the schematics for a 3D printed gun. It's already illegal to shoot somebody with a 3D printed gun, to threaten somebody, to rob somebody with a 3D printed gun, or to be in possession of one. You know, so what more laws are you going to bring in when criminals are running around with these 3D printed guns? It's like, unlike the obsolete caliber firearms, unlike the blank firers, you can't restrict them even more. I mean, until you 3D print a gun, it doesn't exist. You can't restrict something that doesn't exist until you press go. And again, 3D printers are, in the next 5 years, or 10 years, are going to be even better, higher quality, easier to use, and cheaper. And I predict in the next 10 years we will see sub £10,000 metal SLM machines, metal 3D printers. There's already one, I think, that's below 20, and so it's probably even more like 3 or 5 years that you will be able to buy for sub £10,000 a metal 3D printer, and then that really just changes the game. You know, absolutely, completely changes the game. But yeah, anyway, that's sort of the I tend to sort of do a 3D printed live stream or video sort of once a year, or maybe once or twice, so that will probably be it for now. That's my piece on the update of where we are, but really do recommend going and seeing that Vice video. What have you guys been saying? Let's have a quick look into the comments. In terms of the stream topic, all I'll say is that you can't stop the signal. That disp is making sure of that. Again, you know, once something's out on the internet, you can't take it down. So in terms of banning, in terms of restricting or making 3D printed guns even more illegal, you can't. Yes, you can go around collecting physical guns, but files, you know. And it was ruled in the US that it is covered under freedom of speech, that digital, you know, binary ones and zeros, the digital world, it is extended for the freedom of speech, so it's always going to be out there. You know, maybe in the UK they block those certain websites. Well, then there's the dark web. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, we're seeing more crime with it. And in my opinion, it's only going to get worse. And I don't think anybody has a solution for it. And I think, you know, looking at it the other side in terms of the right to bear arms that the Americans have, this just seals the deal. You know, it just, like, there's no way you can't ban an AR-15 when somebody can print one. It's just, and I think this is why the American gun community has gone so passionately into the 3D printing world, because it reinforces their right to bear arms. It reinforces that, you know, their belief that all gun laws are meaningless anyway, because it's a God-given right to be able to have a gun. So, like, more power to him in that respect. It makes the argument sort of null and void for gun control. Have you ever tried airsoft, mil sim, or skirmishes? I haven't yet. I've done paintballing a number of times. I say it all the time, but when I've been there paintballing and I go to take that first shot, there is that hesitation bringing the barrel onto someone. Like, it's ingrained in us on the range never to point a gun at somebody in any situation. It's even like when you go for a gun fitting for a shotgun and they're like, right, point it at my face. You check it again, and you're like, look, can you just, are you happy it's clear? And they're like, yeah, just point it at my face. It's obviously very different to the sort of shooting that I like. I know that Paul Wyborn is huge into it, or certainly has been very big into it. So he keeps on saying that we should have like a Magload day out, maybe like a Caliber Innovations versus the Magload team, in like a sim or skirmish. It does appeal to me. It's just another form of shooting. I just, from a channel perspective, it's very hard. You know, like, practical shooting always gets said, explained as, you know, military combat training or whatever. If I'm then running around doing skirmishes, it's like, oh, hang on a minute, he does practical shooting and he does skirmishes, they're basically the same. He's basically bullshitting everyone. But it is a form of shooting, and what I've always said is, you know, if something has a trigger and you can pull it, I'm interested, as long as it's legal, of course. Omar, I will say you guys should not use America as a way to gauge how easy it is to make 3D printed guns. Here, for example, all we have to do is print a Glock frame, but the parts I get here are regulated in the UK. Absolutely, this is what I was saying earlier. It is very revolutionary in the US. The laws and the restrictions that we have in the UK, and the availability or lack of availability of certain components and firearms and whatnot does make it slightly more difficult. But again, we are seeing we are seeing it in the UK. We've seen the first conviction for it. It is happening, and again, I am unfortunately just waiting to hear of the first person that has been severely hurt or worse by a 3D printed gun in the UK. It is going to happen at some point. We are going to see it. The way the technology is moving forward, it's just leading to that point. Omar, yes, I've made an FGC9 Mark II here in the States. Whilst yes, it's doable, I still don't think your average criminal is going to do that. Again, give it another 5 years. They perfect the design, they perfect the files, they make it easier. I mean, think, you know, if what had happened to P.A. Luty, and he had, or Lutty, or however you are meant to pronounce his last name, you know, he managed to sort of get that one design out, and then got absolutely shafted for it. You know, yeah, he was breaking the law, you know. So if you're gonna, don't do the crime if you're not, well, don't do the crime if you don't want to do the time. But if he had continued, if he had perfected that design, if you'd got, new designs, new and improved, engineering and design is very iterative. You start with something that you think is the absolute best you can do. You get that out there, and then through feedback, through trial and error, over time, you're like, oh, I could do it like this, and oh, actually looking at it, I could have done it like that. Again, that's what we're seeing with 3D printed guns. That's exactly what Defense Distributed did. It took them like a good 10 different designs to be able to get a usable AR-15 lower, but they got there. They found what didn't work. They found what did, and they perfected it. Don't forget to like, guys, and subscribe. It does make me happy. How about, oh god, this is obviously completely legally, and whilst this is obviously very heavy around the illegal 3D printing of guns, I don't advocate it. You should always stay within your laws. At the end of the day, I assume that everyone watching is a law-abiding citizen. No, not like the film. I bloody hope not. But as law abiding shooters, as people that want to take part in gun ownership and shooting sports or shooting pursuits legally, you have to lead by example. And I think any FAC holder, firearm certificate holder or shotgun certificate holder, being found to be illegally 3D printing guns is going to come under a lot of flack, and it's going to bring the whole community a lot of negative light. So and obviously the bigger point is that it's illegal, so we don't want to be advocating any of that. So there are various legal ways to be able to 3D print a gun in the UK. So if we get 100 likes on this video, I will find a way legally, again, I'm a heavy caveat on that, to legally 3D print a gun in the UK and test it. So if you want me to see that, if you want to see, actually that is a really interesting thing, because we always come at this from an illegal aspect, right? The steps, the way that you would legally 3D print a gun in the UK. Anyone want to see that? 100 likes and we'll do it. Again, legally. I know there's a lot of people that watch this stream that will probably be going, oh, he's going to 3D print a gun, and I have my door kicked in, people will be blowing out the windows, I have helicopters overhead. That's not what's going to happen. Obviously, the main thing is having an RFD, either having a certificate yourself or knowing somebody that is a registered firearms dealer for the purposes of manufacturing. And obviously, we've got a 3D print a long barrel pistol. That would be like a long barrel pistol liberator, a UK legal liberator. That's what we've got to do. 100 likes and we will find a way to legally do that, and I'll document the whole thing for you. What people seem to forget is 3D print doesn't mean Chinese plastic. You can use basically any material with a good enough printer. Absolutely. Titanium, Inconel, nylon, you've got ABS, you've got PLA, and all various different blends. So yeah, like the possibilities really are endless. Make guns, no ammo for them. No, you can. We've covered this. It's not an argument. I'm just like, usually I will entertain it and I'd explain. It's just not. We've talked about it so many times now. It's been proven so many times that you can easily get hold of it. Oh god, we're getting up there. We're getting up there to the 100. I might have just set myself a gauntlet that might be a bit hard to meet. But we will get it. What was the make of the shotgun you were showing last week? New on the market, Callum, please. Have you tested it yet? So I believe you're talking about the Caliber Innovations RR. Obviously, with recent events. Now, usually I'm not very apologetic for curtailing what I do in the light of a bad event when it comes to shooting. Because it's like, sorry, what you're gonna do? You're linking a mass murderer to a lawful sport. I got a load of shit years ago, and this was completely unintentional. So it was right after the parachutings. The least said about that on this channel, the better. But it was it was after the parachutings. I was out in the States at the time, and I'd been to the range. I'd shot a Desert Eagle. I was pretty happy about the fact that I'd shot a Desert Eagle, and I think I changed my profile picture to me, or the banner of me shooting the Desert Eagle, and the amount of shit I got from that was unbelievable. And I just kept saying, sorry, this was a lawfully owned gun on a registered legal range, and like, third of all, it's a handgun. How is that in any way relevant or comparable to a bunch of mass murdering fuckheads going in with AK-40 illegally obtained and smuggled across the border AK-47s and killing a load of people? But you know, sometimes I do have to bite my tongue. And the video could have been out maybe a little bit sooner, but for those of you that are wondering what it is, Callum Renovation have the new, we're referring to them as the JPS variant of the RR. So there is a pump action and a semi-auto, and obviously given the recent events, I didn't want to necessarily be putting out too much media on a new practical pump action shotgun. But I've got the footage. I filmed a full review with them. I have fully tested them. They are, a caveat. Then, I know the team at Caliber really well, and they do a fantastic job of trying to bring out the latest and greatest affordable sort of guns to everyone. These aren't like the best thing since sliced bread. To be completely brutally honest about them, these are a budget gun. I think you're looking, I think it was £500 for the semi-auto and £400 for the pump, or it might be 6 and 5. So you are down at the lower end. It's comparable to the M3K. You're not getting an M2. You're not getting a 1301. They are budget guns, but there is a lot that is done to them that a lot of the budget guns don't have. So you can see the enlarged charging handle. You've got the enlarged button there on the semi-auto, the enlarged bolt release. The port has had some work done. It definitely does need some more, but there's material removed there, which a lot of basic guns won't have. This spring, so this is like effectively like a forward assist spring. So as you bring the pump handle back, the 4M back to cycle the pump action, it compresses the spring and you can let it go and fly. I actually found that really difficult to operate, and after a very quick go, took the spring out. But yeah, I give a full and honest review of these. They will be out as soon as possible. Again, they probably would have been out this week if I wasn't on my jollies. And for those of you wondering, yes, that is a Magload, magload.co.uk, Nexus Pro quad loading rig. Again, I didn't really think it would do the sport any good or any favours showing a bunch of dual loading and quad loading. Well, not quad loading because these were section 2, but dual loading as quickly as I could go right after Plymouth. So I just wanted to give it a bit of cool down time. But they do match. I have to give Caliber that. Like, I cannot fault the colour. Golden black. It does look very, very good together. So yeah, there will be a full video out for review of these. I think overall it's a good budget option. I don't think you're going to be winning level 3s. I don't think you're going to become world champion with them, but one of the biggest selling points of them is that with the section 2 version, so obviously I can only shoot the section 2s because I don't have an FAC, or I'm not a servant of an RFD anymore, so I could only shoot the section 2, and there's going to be a lot of people out there that are waiting for their firearm certificate and they've only got a shotgun certificate. Well, you can go and buy a section 2 on your shotgun certificate, and what Caliber will do is completely free of charge, sort of built into the original purchase price. If you get your FAC and you want it converted to section 1, they will convert it to an unrestricted section 1 free of charge. So this is what I've always said about the whole buy once, cry once. Yes, I completely advocate the M3K. The gun that I used before it absolutely died of death was basically an M3K'd M3000, so a Section 2 M3000, because they don't make a Section 2 M3K. And I'd basically turned this M3000, the Section 2 M3000, into a Section 2 M3K. I find it very hard to beat the M3K, but it doesn't come in a Section 2. So, and you can't buy the M3000s anymore. I don't think they're bringing them into the UK anymore. So maybe you can get a second-hand one. I wouldn't recommend getting a second-hand M3000 because, like, after about 2 or 3 years of good use, that's sort of the use you have. Obviously, time will tell with the Caliber Innovations RR. The longevity, I can't give a review of the longevity because I've only just landed. But one of the biggest issues is going and spending a lot of money on, say, a Section 2 beginner gun, and then having to go and spend all of that money again later on for your Section 1 variant. Well, with this, you can get used to it. Section 2, it will be the exact same gun, just with a longer tube when you get your Section 1. So a fantastic budget option that is going to see you through both your beginner stages and also, when you get a bit better. Personally, I would still say go and spend the money on an M2 or a 1301. You can get Section 2 M2s that can be converted at a later date to Section 1s. 1301, you can't, unless you're going to go and spend like £2,500 on one of the definitely not a Beretta 1301 Comp Pro. It's just, again, Beretta and their pricing structure, what the fuck. So yeah, I would still advocate going and spending the money initially on the M2 in Section 2 and doing it that route. But I know there's a lot of people that budgets are going to be quite prohibitive getting into the sport, and you want to only spend the minimum that you can. Well, you're going to get a lot of shooting in, you're going to get a lot of matches in with one of the RRs. But yes, there will be. I won't say any more. Because there will be a full review, and then if I say much more, there's not really much point putting that review out. Dylan, can't you in the UK just make all the deactivated guns you have functional, unlike in the US where all the functional auto military guns are torch cut? That's sort of a good point. So that was where a lot of the illegal firearms were coming from, but the laws kept up on that. The standards now to have the deactivation is assessed by the proof house. You have to send it to the proof house and get a certificate that a genuine deactivated firearm is up to modern standards. If you don't have that certificate, I think there's something that it's like grandfathered. If you do have older deactivated guns, you can still keep them, but you can't transfer or sell them. So only you can ever have it. So if you do sell it to a criminal, you are violating the law, and that if that criminal goes and converts it and uses it for a crime, you will be culpable in some way. But modern standards, they cut the barrels, they weld up. So it is a shame. So one of the big appeals of the previous deactivated firearms available in the UK to the old standards, you could still have like a removable magazine, the trigger would still work, the bolt would still work, the slide was still movable. Nothing is allowed to move on a modern day deactivated gun. So they, again, working with NABUS, working with the proof house, modern standards mean that you would be an absolute madman to try and reactivate one and put a round through it. They are deactivated in such a way that it will just be a hand grenade, and it's going to do you far more damage than it is anything that you're trying to shoot it at. So yes, we don't have to necessarily torch cut the guns, but a full auto gun that is being deactivated would be deactivated to such a point that it would never be able to be reactivated again. But yeah, if you get your hands on an older deactivated gun, there are methods to be able to undo that, but that's illegal, and of course no one breaks the law. The deactivated guns in the UK are pretty pretty thoroughly demilled. Yeah. Mr. E30, evening Callum in chat. Good evening, Mr. E30. Thanks for joining. John Thompson, in less than 10 years, we'll be seeing 3D printed rail/coil guns. They are out there already, but not very powerful. Yeah, that is something I'm keeping. I think it's BAE Systems. Obviously, unlimited budgets and vast resources, and obviously big ranges. Yeah, railgun, like electromagnetic railguns, they're getting a bit tasty. The sort of speeds and ranges and accuracy that they're getting. Yeah, I mean, it's something like what is it? Is it Demolition Man, where they have the pulse cannon or whatever it is? Yeah, we're sort of getting there. We're sort of getting to the point where you don't actually need a powdered cartridge with a primer. You just need a projectile, something that could be turned on a lathe and then is fired out of an electromagnetic, rail or coil gun. So that is interesting, to see where that will go. Obviously, then you're actually combining sort of two hobbyists, like the hobbyist sort of PCB electronic design communities and the 3D printing communities. Between the two, there's not a lot that can't be made. ATF is trying to change the definition of a firearm to include an upper and slide. That will probably happen shortly. I always get called a bootlicker, right, on this channel, right? Things are very different in the UK for starters, right? But I don't necessarily disagree with that, right? Obviously, it's like the argument is very wide. If you disagree with registering firearms, needing licenses or having any sort of restrictions on firearms, then it doesn't really matter if it's just the lower, or the upper, or the barrels, or so on and so forth. You disagree with the whole principle of it. But if you are going to have serialized, serial numbered parts, if you are going to have restrictions, if you are going to have various gun control and gun laws, at least do it so it makes sense, right? And I know that sounds really weird, but I find it fascinating that the only thing in America on an AR that is licensable is the lower. It's like the lawmakers out there, it's like, yeah, we had a go at it. Like we tried. We tried. Like now they're fucking 3D printing them. It's like I can see why they're gonna go that route. I honestly don't know why they haven't sooner. Anyone with a machine shop, making a barrel, again, it is just a cylindrical tube, but making a precision rifle barrel, that takes skill. Like not every machine shop can do that. It's a very specialist trade, a very specialist skill. But making a lower, like milling a lower, yes, it's a specialist skill in CNCing, but pretty much any CNCist or out there, any machinist can make a lower. And again, that's one of the big things that Defense Distributed did, is they, I think it was called the Ghost Gunner, where they basically sent you a box that you put a block of ammunition, like an 80% lower in, and it did everything for you. So no skill needed whatsoever. So yeah, it does really make me laugh, like the American laws on what is a licensable part, because it's just like you're just making it so easy. You're just, if you're gonna restrict guns, if you're gonna do it, I know I sound like I'm advocating it, I know I sound like I'm like on the government side here, but you got to sort of see it from their side, like how idiotic it is just to license the lower. Like especially now you can just 3D print them. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that in the UK. If you like I do, I support a licensing system. I support the licensing system because it makes sure that private firearms owners are competent, that they've had some level of sort of testing and assessment, and when they're down the range, there is a level of competency. So and if we're gonna, let's say at the moment, just agree that we're gonna try and minimalize, and things again are very different in the UK because we had gun laws much earlier than anywhere else in the world, so it stopped how freely available illegal guns were or black market guns were. So it does have a more of an effect, a positive effect in making them harder to get hold of. Obviously, dark web is making that a little bit easier now. But yeah, it's like if you're gonna if the government is going to restrict something, like go the full hog, like do something that's actually going to be effective. And I think that's my biggest gripe with most of the gun laws is they're not effective. They don't actually. Well, first of all, they only obviously end up affecting, like 90% of the time they only end up affecting the law-abiding gun owners. But then they do like very little to actually help or solve any issue that they were intended to prevent in the first place. So it's like, yeah, if you're going to inconvenience, if you're going to affect law-abiding gun owners, at least do it so that there's a positive effect. It's again, like I talk about it every single time on the stream, Mars and lever release, right? It's like, that's not solving a problem, right? That's not solving a problem at all. It's just shitting all over legal gun owners. It's like, why put all that focus and time? Like when we talked about it last week on the Plymouth stream, it's like, if they had spent that time and effort and money on bringing in this new statutory guidance, that Plymouth shooting probably wouldn't have happened, right? But they spent all this time and effort and money on the Mars. So it's like, you've just done something that hasn't solved any issues. It hasn't made anybody safer, but it's taken away something that I think we could have all agreed with was needed and would have benefited and would have been, potentially made the UK a safer place. I'm just gonna, I know there's been loads of other messages, but I'm gonna skip down to the most recent. People are talking about rat burgers. Oh yes, Demolition Man. I forgot we talked about that. Only guns you can't shoot without an FAC, SGC or Section 1, and LBP, Section 1 shotguns and LBP, so there's still not a lot of shooting. So there's still a lot of shooting you can do. There are various caveats to that. So yes, there is a lot of shooting you can do without a firearm or shotgun certificate, but it has to be done under various exemptions. The biggest one, and it's why I say go and join a club, is the Home Office approved club exemption. If you are even a probational member or a full member of a Home Office approved club, there are various exemptions in place that allow you to pretty much shoot anything apart from a Section 1 shotgun or a long barrel pistol. A lot of people say, why did they specifically exclude them? They didn't. They're just not written into the exemption. So obviously we have the whole funny thing between a Section 1 firearm shotgun and a Section 2 shotgun. Because the exemption says like pretty much just rifles, it doesn't say shotguns. It doesn't include the Section 1 shotguns, and obviously long barrel pistols. Whilst you could have a bit of an argument. There was a successful case by a club that went to court and won, saying that there is no legal definition of a long barrel pistol. So whilst the police treat it differently, whilst you do have a separate slot, and it is specifically a long barrel pistol slot, there is no legal definition of a long barrel pistol. So what this club did is said, look, the definition of a small arm, or the definition of a carbine or a rifle is anything that has a barrel over 12 inches or a total and a total length of over 24 inches. Hence why we have the silly little rod on the end and the pissing great long barrel. And they, held that up to a jury and said, is this a rifle? And the jury went, well, yeah, it's got a 12-inch barrel and it's got an overall length of 24 inches. So that club won to be able to have long barrel pistols on their club certificates. And, well, from that moment on, they don't call them long barrel pistols because they're rifles. However, I can't remember the legal technicality, but that couldn't be used as precedent. So it didn't sort of pave the way for other clubs to do the same. If somebody privately or a club wanted to have that argument again, they would need to have that argument again in court. And there is nothing saying that you would have the same result if you get a different jury that go, nah, you're taking the piss, that's obviously a complete loophole, these things shouldn't even exist. And they then define a long barrel pistol as being what they think it is, and not a rifle. You'd get yourself into a lot of trouble. So unfortunately, that's the state of play. But yes, as defined by law, a long barrel pistol is actually a rifle. There is no such thing legally as a long barrel pistol. Trying to portray that to a load of people that don't know a lot about guns, that's where your risk factor comes in, going to court. Members of the NRA can bring friends. Okay, so there's another exemption within the Home Office approved club, which is the Home Office approved club is allowed to run a maximum of 12 guest days a year. These have to be sort of pre-booked, these have to be pre-arranged and pre-notified, I think, with the police and or Home Office. And on those guest days, you are allowed to let non-members, either non-probational or non-full members, to be able to use the club guns under the club exemptions, but it has to be on a registered club day. Funnily enough, when I was at university where I started shooting, we had a brilliant way of not necessarily getting around that, but not even having to register it as a guest day. I think we still did, just as a belt and braces sort of approach, but we made everyone members, not full members. We made everybody probational members, basically to come down for the freshers shoot. You had to join the club, but membership was like 15-20 quid. So the way we sold it was like, do you want to come and shoot a load of guns that you've probably never shot or even seen before in the UK? People were like, yeah, that's like an easy sell. Like, do you want to come shoot a load of guns? Yeah, it'll be 20 quid. I can live with that. So they'd get like 50 rounds of ammunition, and some didn't even shoot that. Like, some people would come down, put like 10 rounds for a single shot bolt action 2.2 and be happy. But that 20 quid gave them the membership for the year, so they were a probational member, and they were able to shoot under the exemptions. Didn't even need to use one of the club's guest days. But yeah, that's another avenue that they can do. Travis Walker, are you a law student? I think you're talking to GZERP there. I'm certainly not a law student, and I always say I am not a legal expert. Whilst I try my hardest to explain the various rules and guidelines that we have here in the UK, always do your own reading, because I've been caught out many times, not just on shooting, but just relying on what people think is their expert advice. So Peter Skeleton, is that Skeleton? I'm rubbish with names, heavily dyslexic, but sorry for butchering your name if I did. Okay, just a question for any RFDs. I want to purchase a long barrel pistol with my son. Both of us have a FAC with a slot. How can we both get it on our FACs? Simple. You both sign it on your FACs. You can, you don't need to buy a gun to put it on your FAC. You can be given it, you can share it, and basically you write, if you go in and purchase it and sign it onto your FAC, you can you legally gift a gun under? Yes, you can gift a Section 1 gun to an FAC holder, to somebody under the age of 18, and you just sign it on their ticket. This is there was a live stream quite a while ago with Ben and Emma Ducker, and they're a couple, as their names would suggest, and Emma was using Ben's Section 1 shotgun. So she needed her own firearm certificate, and all they did is they have a duplicate firearm certificate. This not only allows them to both be in lawful possession of the guns on their own, but it means that they can both have access to the safe, because they both have lawful authority to be in possession of all of the same guns. So both of them can know where the keys are, both of them can have access, both of them can go and get whatever guns out they want. So yeah, you just sign it on, and an RFD, that's really not a complicated thing. If you're doing it in the gun shop, obviously it gets a bit tricky, because if they are under because you say son, if they are under the age of 18, they can't buy it, so it does have to be gifted. But the RFD will be able to walk you through that. Basically, he will sell it to you. You put it on your certificate, on your firearm certificate, and then you can gift it to your son. So he can just write gifted, put the serial number in. The only thing is, you don't cross it off, so it's on both of your certificates. It's the same gun, same serial number, and both of you can then shoot it. So not difficult at all to do. So again, big news, and we will be doing various meets and various events in the future, and part of the reason that I am ridiculously tired is because of this. We've been very specific and not sharing much more, but this is the only sort of public image out of there of the new Magload unit. So Magload has now moved. We are in our own on our own, I won't say own estate, because there are other units there, but we have our complete own separate unit. It's now everything's in one place. If anybody has been down to Magload, obviously Magload was based at Bluefield Sports, and we effectively had two sites. We had the office and sort of storeroom. That was up by the Bluefield Sports gun room, sort of same car park, same plot of land. And then there was also the workshop. That's where all the big machineries was. And one of the biggest issues that we had was, Connors would need to be machining something, but then he also needs to be up the top doing various other sort of management stuff. So we needed to be in one place, and we'd also massively outgrown the space that was available to us at Bluefield Sports. We were literally bursting at the seams. We had thought maybe 6 months, 12 months ago of moving everything down to the workshop. There was some space above that we could put offices in and have a storeroom, but it even got to the point where that just wasn't going to be enough. And I thanks to a lot of you guys, I must add, and we are very appreciative of it. Magload is growing at quite a fast pace, and we needed somewhere that not only fitted our needs now, but we could also grow into. So at the moment, it's about 1,800 square foot of space. There's office space, reception space, and obviously general workshop space, which you can see part of the backdrop of that in the previous photo, but we also have permission to be able to put in a mezzanine, which will pretty much double the square footage. So we're probably, in the end, once everything's done and dusted, we're probably looking at about 3,500 to 4,000. No, that's not about 3,500 square foot. I think will be like the total figure in the end. So we have a lot of space to grow. And we need it. And the thing is, we've all of the machinery was actually moved today, so we completed the move. We got the keys. We got the keys on Friday. Right. So this has been my week. Right. Finally got the keys on Friday. Booked a big van. I think over the weekend did 10 runs in total, moving stuff from the old place to the new place. And today the machinery movers, so we have 8-ton CNC machines and various big 3D printers and stuff like that. So they came in today and got that moved in 2 loads. So basically Friday I was quite literally camped outside of the agent. Not particularly happy, if I'm going to be honest, with the way the agent dealt with things, but I don't think many people have good things to say about agents, either commercial or residential. But yeah, through various demands, managed to get the keys on Friday finally. and basically we were awake from like, well, I was awake from about 6:30 to like 12 o'clock on the Saturday, and then pretty much the same again on the Sunday, and then Monday got up early to head up to the Cotswolds with my fiance, and been there for the last 4 days, and then managed to get back to the unit today to watch the last of the move. So it's been a pretty jam-packed and busy week, but yeah, we completed the move today. We're now just in the process of sorting out everything, so this is why there isn't sort of any video or any pictures from within the unit at the moment, because it looks like a car boot sale. Like, if I'm going to be completely honest, like, the machines aren't set up, there's still loads of boxes, things still haven't found their final home yet. The offices, like, we still got desks that haven't been assembled, so that's what we're going to spend the next week doing, probably a lot of this weekend as well, just getting everything sorted out. As soon as it is presentable, we're planning on doing the live streams again with Connors, so we will have a dedicated space to be able to do the live streams from the unit. Connors will be joining in again, Paul will be joining in as well, and various guests, so various Team Magload members that want to come down, or really anybody. If you know, it will be we want it to be not only just sort of the workspace, the office space and shop space for Magload, but we want it to be like a social hangout space for people in the long run, where people can just come down and chill. If you want to be part of the live stream, you can. If you want to, you know, bring down your guns and we do a what's in your safe video, you know, it will be a nice hub that anyone can come down to. And we will have normal like open hours, so it won't be, you know, appointment only. It will be for the short term, but we're gonna have a proper walk-in shop, so you'll be able to come down, you know, like, you know, Monday to Friday 9 to 5, or even the weekends, whenever we're basically there. But we will have core office hours, core shop hours that you'll be able to come down. Obviously, I spend the majority of my time there. Connors will be there, Paul will be there, and we have plans for expansion on the team. So yeah, if you want to come down and hang out with us, like, come and do it. We would appreciate if you come down and buy some stuff as well, because that's what keeps the lights on and pays the bills. But yeah, we want it to be this really like nice social hub where you can just come and hang out and chew the fat. The Wildlife Films currently building a mostly 3D printed functional phallogophass. Did I say that right? I'd be bloody impressed if I did. World War II Gen 1 man pads. Man pads sounds like incontinent pads, if I'm just going to be completely honest. But anyway, mix of bronze and steel material, anything is possible now. I hope you're doing that legally, that's all I can say. Shop is mask free, right? Lol. Like, Connors doesn't need a mask, he's got the beard. But yeah, we won't, well, we of course, and that's more Connors expertise, but yeah, it's not a legal requirement to have a mask in a shop anymore. So, you know, if you want to wear a mask, we're not going to stop you. But yeah, we won't be doing, we won't be insisting on it. The cost of acquiring a 3D printed gun should be cheaper, which would increase the market, making them potentially higher in demand. Yeah. Registered destructive device. Good. Man pads. Yeah. Man portable air defense system. I mean, did someone like not spell that one out? You know, yes, this is a man portable air defense system. And to someone like later on, after it had been launched and had been deployed, someone went, "You do realise the acronym for that is man pads?" Like, did all the squaddies at that point just go, "Nah, I'm not carrying man pads." You know, he's got a man pad on his back, you know, or stuck to your foot, whatever. But yeah, I mean, when you say it out like fully, man portable air defense system, it does sound cool as fuck. But man pads, not so much. It's all in the branding. It's all in the marketing. All right, like, I mean, we are. Yes, you know, Magload does have a product that is called the Stiffy. So maybe I can't talk that much, but that was Connor's idea. I really didn't want to do it, but it does mean that I can go up to people at matches and go, nice stiffy. And also we go at all the time, we're going, do you want a large stiffy or do you want a small stiffy? Maybe a medium, maybe you're even an extra large stiffy. Do you want an extra large stiffy? Because we can give you an extra large stiffy. So it works like that, but it doesn't really work with man pads. It doesn't have that je ne sais quoi. Have you looked into the FGC9 or the Plasticoff? I've seen lots about the Plasticoff. I think I've seen various amounts of the FGC9. I don't tend to go searching for them. I'm probably on enough watch lists as it is. Don't need to add to any more. I remember when the Met had a fast action response team. Yes. Yes, I'm not really surprised. Is there a trans pad? Ha! What's that? A tranny portable air defense system. Can I see your stiffy? Exactly. It works really well. Although we spell it Stiffy, I think. Will pistols ever be legal in the UK? Pistols are legal in the UK. Next subject. Like this, and I'm guilty of doing it myself, right? Like 100%. Charge the watch list for premium access. What to see my stiffy? That's on the English Shooting Only Guns page or OnlyFans, whatever. Just readjusting my man pad. Yeah, don't want to be leaking. You don't want some premature ejaculation from your man pad. That's, you know, that could end. You could take down all sorts of aircraft with that. So will pistols ever be legal in the UK? So first of all, and I know I'm guilty of it, of saying this as well, but the terminology, it's like nothing is banned in the UK, and I'm sure you all know this, but like let's break it down. Like handgun, and it also depends on what you define as a handgun. Is a long barrel pistol a handgun? Legally, it is it meets the definition of a rifle, but some people class it as handguns, i.e. the police. So is it handguns? Muzzle loading handguns are legal on Section 1. Black powder revolver handguns are legal, or muskets are legal under Section 1. But obviously, I'm pretty sure you're talking about, Glocks, Glock 19s, Glock 17s, Smith and Wesson revolvers, things like that. The sexy stuff that you can't own on a Section 1. Well, there's Section 7.3, where you can own a variety of otherwise prohibited or heavily restricted handguns under 7.3. So again, you can legally own them. There are also Section 5 sporting licenses. So there are a few people, I believe it's 20, that have a Section 5 certificate to be able to use otherwise prohibited handguns for the purpose of sport. So there are various avenues and various legalities of owning and shooting handguns in the UK. And failing all that, there is Section 5. Like, you can become a Section 5 dealer. You can, get a Section 5 certificate, license, whatever you want to call it, and legally own handguns. So I know I'm being like a little bit, pedantic, but let's rephrase it to, will we ever see like all handguns on Section 1 certificates? I would very much like to say never. There's a lot of things change very, very quickly. Yes, the general consensus is going downhill for gun ownership in the UK, although numbers do tend to go up year on year. But in terms of more control, in terms of harsher laws, we just seem to be getting a harder time of it as time goes on. But never say never. We may one day have handguns again. I'm optimistic. If we're just gonna throw in the towel and say, oh, they're gonna take everything anyway, what's the point? Then you might as well walk down to the police station and hand in your guns, right? We need a bit of optimism. We need to keep the focus. We need to be able to promote and get as many people into the sport as possible, and be proactive about it. Be optimistic, be proactive, be positive. The more people, and I say every single time, it's a numbers game. At the moment, there's around 750,000 license holders in the UK. If we manage to if you times that by 10, if every one of those license holders introduced and got somebody else to get a certificate each year, you'd have the first year you'd have 1.5 million, then the next year you'd have 3 million, then you'd have 6. When you start to getting to like 10% of the population having certificates, well, that's 10% of voters. That's when it becomes powerful. Look at recent elections. A few million people is enough to be able to swing an election. And when we get to that point, that's when we can push forward for better laws to have handguns again under Section 1s for sporting purposes. So that is a numbers game. So if we can get 3, 6, 10 million certificate holders out there that all have a genuine interest in having handguns legal again, then I think it is very possible to get handguns on Section 1s again for sporting use. I don't know, maybe I'm just being like hopelessly optimistic there, but that's like, I know it certainly sounds a lot easier than it is, but that's what needs to happen. We need more numbers, we need more political sway because of that numbers, and that's when we can sway things in our favour for once. Something I don't understand is how semi-auto can be on Section 1 for a 12 gauge shotgun, but not for a 5.56. That's because somebody didn't walk into a school and shoot a load of kids with a 12 gauge shotgun. As like callous as that sounds, that's the reason we don't have full bore semi-automatic rifles. It's like on the reverse, right? And I always find like it's not funny. The events certainly aren't funny, but the Netherlands, right? The Netherlands can't own single-barreled shotguns. Why? Because somebody went into a shopping mall and shot a load of people with a single-barreled semi-automatic shotgun. So they banned them there. And over here, they did it with handguns and they did it with semi-automatic rifles. So they banned them there. And I just, it's baffling that you can't look at the either two and go, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. It's like, it's almost like the type of gun has nothing to do with it. So yeah, that's that literally why we're allowed semi-automatic shotguns and not semi-automatic rifles. That's why a lot of people are very worried about what is going to happen from the Plymouth shooting, because that was done with a shotgun. That was done with a pump, as far as we know, a pump action shotgun. So are they going to ban them? Well, the silver lining for the gun community is that it wasn't again, Dunblane and Hungerford, they both had severe mental health issues and had their licenses taken away, and there were various red flags for why they shouldn't have had a gun, but they still shafted all the legal gun owners. But thanks to social media, thanks to the 24-hour media that we have today, people were made very, very quickly aware that it was a monumentous police cock-up. 7 months prior to getting his certificates. Webcamchat.com, hot girls and boys video chat. Yes, please. Yes, please. Where do I go? Let's get rid of you. Hide user. Goodbye. Yes, do it. Do it. FFFF. Callum's only gun site. Soon, coming soon. When things get desperate, I will. Don't worry, I'm on it. I'm on it. Not just the website. I've also, to be honest, the website's not worth visiting. I'm just don't waste your time. Yeah. So Pornhub's free. Exactly. Like it does. I'm not even getting down to that. There is a various soundbite that always comes up whenever I talk about porn. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So yeah, it's just about literally the logic of gun bans. The logic of gun control is like, you know, whatever gun someone did something bad with, we're gonna ban. That's gonna solve it. It's like, oh wait, they used a different gun and did something bad. That didn't work. Well, we'll ban that gun too. You know, but again, in the UK, we have some of the strictest, most robust firearms laws in the world, which on the whole work very, very well when they're followed. That's what I always say. Anyway, I'm just going to give a quick, needless shill. Is it a shill or a plug or a... what do you even call it? Anyway, there is a website. English Shooting does have a website. It is EnglishShooting.org, and there is some amazing merch on there. If you want to support the channel and get some really cool swag, then please feel free to go on to EnglishShooting.org. You can have a momentum of Connor's there. There is one currently. I'm not even going to say it because it's meant to be a surprise. But yeah, you can have his face, or you can have one of these very stylish hats. Which, if you've been watching this live stream, has probably been staring you in the face. It's so comfortable, fits any size. And doesn't it just make me look beautiful? But anyway, EnglishShooting.org. Also, if you're interested, of course, the main reason I started this site, not just to sell you guys merch, is if you go on there, if you're interested on finding out how to get into the sport, there are a variety of videos nicely there on EnglishShooting.org. So you can go on there, you can follow the steps, and hopefully obtain your firearm certificate. Again, increasing the numbers of shooters within the UK. Yes, and by the way, you've only got a short time, because I will be leaving very shortly. If this gets 100 likes, if this stream gets 100 likes before I leave, it doesn't count if it's on catch up. If we get to 100 likes, I will legally find a way to document how you legally 3D print a gun in the UK. It is possible. From my fairly good knowledge of UK law, and obviously I will have to consult with people. If there's any shadow of a doubt that what would be done would be illegal, I'm not going to even attempt it. I'm not going to try and skirt some grey area of the law. I want it to be absolutely iron tight. But yes, if we get 100 likes, and the time is counting down. So, if you want to see the documented process of legally printing a gun in the UK, and that, like the cherry on top will be signing that then onto a Section 1 certificate. I think that's really the full start to finish, from the design, the legalities of what licenses you need to even start designing a UK legal 3D printed gun, getting it manufactured, testing it, getting it proofed. Oh, that's going to be a nightmare. The proof house are going to have a fit. And that's when I say legally, I mean absolutely genuine bona fide legal. I don't mean like something cobbled together. It would have to conform to UK law. It would have to meet proof to then be signed on to a Section 1 certificate. So yeah, only 4 more, and we will get that done. It will be a we, because I certainly can't. I don't have the authority on my own to be able to do it. We're 2 away. We're 2 away. Do you think you guys will ever get handguns back? Skip the video back like 10 minutes. Or maybe even 20. We covered this. Come on. I think I'm gonna have to go now. We're getting so close. Shall I just sit here and wait? Just don't mind me. I'll have a drink. But yeah, 100 likes, and we will document the process of legally 3D printing a gun in the UK. I might be setting quite a rod for my own back here. There we go, 100. All right, I'll accept that, even if someone does remove it. We hit 100. So yes, thank you very much. Sorry if this has been a fairly lethargic. I don't know. I feel absolutely drained and shattered. I'm probably just gonna, crawl to bed now and just conk out. But yes, looks like I have some emails to send in a way to show it. But this has been something that I've wanted to do personally for a very long time. It, as far as I'm aware, is legally possible, and we hit 100 likes, so it looks like I have to now. But yeah, I'm going to wrap things up there. Thank you very much for giving me a huge task to legally go and 3D print a gun in the UK. It might take some time. Like, just give it. This isn't going to be something that's going to happen it'll happen tomorrow, but I will start the wheels in motion. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. If you're watching on catch up, thank you very much. Go and check out some other well, all of you guys now, you can go and check out other videos. We do this every single week, so if there's anyone new, if you've been enjoying the stream, if it's been something interesting, then hit subscribe. Every Thursday 7:30. Even though I did a mammoth journey and only got in like a half an hour before the stream was meant to go on, I still did it. So I'm committed to the cause every single week, 7:30 p.m. UK time on the Thursday. And yes, we will very, very shortly be hopefully streaming from the new Magload unit. And yes, there will be various videos coming out from that new unit. It's just like a big play space for us now. And maybe even some, 3D printing guns. You never know. But there we go. Again, big thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone that supported, made donations to the channel. It does all help keeping the channel going and growing. But yeah, like and subscribe. It really does help the analytics. And again, thank you for your time this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. And of course, as always, I hope to see you soon.